You know, cybercrime literally knows no borders. But today, we're looking at an absolutely monumental milestone in the global digital landscape that is intended to change all of that. Welcome to this explainer on the UN Cybercrime Convention. It's essentially a massive treaty aimed at equipping law enforcement worldwide with the tools they need to protect citizens and truly secure our digital economy. Let's get right into it.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll cover a monumental digital milestone. Then we'll dive into safeguards and human rights, followed by benefits and global adoption. After that, we'll be defining information technology crimes, looking at global law enforcement cooperation, and finally, wrapping up with how you can join the cyber-aware mission.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, a monumental digital milestone.
So what exactly is this UN Cybercrime Convention anyway? Well, adopted back in December 2024, it is essentially the world's very first universal legal playbook to fight digital threats. For years, local police have hit these massive jurisdictional brick walls when trying to chase hackers across borders. I mean, trying to secure digital evidence or recover stolen funds internationally has been a total nightmare. But this treaty, it aims to shatter those walls. It does this by establishing a standardized, global regime for cross-border cooperation, rapid electronic evidence sharing, and, get this, a 24/7 law enforcement network.
The goals here are super clear, and honestly, really ambitious. First up, we need to align global laws. The idea is that the definition of a cybercrime becomes identical across borders, which means criminals can be prosecuted pretty much anywhere. Next, it's about upgrading police powers. This gives law enforcement modern legal tools to actually freeze, track, and intercept digital evidence. Third, we've got to eliminate hiding spots. This stops hackers from just vanishing into foreign countries by forcing global cooperation and extraditions. And finally, the treaty aims to help developing countries by providing much-needed training, funding, and technology to nations that currently lack strong cyber defenses.
Moving right along to Section 2, safeguards and human rights.
First up in this section is guarding national sovereignty. Look, countries naturally do not want foreign police operating on their own soil. Makes sense, right? Well, the treaty handles this beautifully through Article 4, which ensures no foreign state can just step into another's territory and start playing digital police. Plus, all these international cooperation mechanisms are anchored to something called the principle of dual criminality. Basically, this means a state is never, ever forced to assist in an investigation unless the targeted conduct is actually considered a crime under their own domestic law, too.
Second on the list, we have data privacy. Now, you might be wondering, wait, does this mean my personal data is just going to be shared everywhere automatically? Thankfully, the treaty tackles this proactively through Article 5. This article requires that all investigative powers and data sharing must be carefully balanced with robust international human rights obligations. It basically ensures that procedural powers, like, say, the real-time collection of traffic data, are completely subject to the safeguards and judicial oversight that are already embedded in local domestic laws. So it holds a really firm line against unlawful digital surveillance. Third is protecting dissidents. A huge concern during the treaty's 5-year negotiation process was preventing autocracies from exploiting these new cross-border mechanisms to just hunt down political dissidents, journalists, or human rights defenders living abroad. To put a stop to that, Article 40 includes an absolutely vital safeguard. It explicitly permits a nation to just flat-out deny requests for data or legal assistance if there are substantial grounds to believe the request is secretly really about punishing someone for their race, religion, or political opinions. Okay, let's jump into Section 3, benefits and global adoption.
For everyday citizens like you and me, this treaty is honestly a monumental victory. It offers direct relief by becoming the very first universal framework tackling online abuse. It makes historical strides by explicitly criminalizing the non-consensual dissemination of intimate images, which offers a massive lifeline to victims of digital harassment. It also takes a swing at cyber fraud and ransomware by harmonizing laws so authorities can finally freeze and confiscate those ill-gotten digital assets. And furthermore, it creates unparalleled global standards to protect the vulnerable by tracking down international networks that are involved in online child sexual exploitation and abuse. The momentum behind this treaty is immense, and it's actually breaking right through traditional geopolitical divides. To give you some perspective, as of mid-2026, 78 UN member states are officially on board and have signed the treaty. But, and this is a big catch, crucially, over 110 countries have yet to sign on the dotted line.
If we look at the breakdown, countries like the UK, France, Germany, the EU as a whole, Brazil, and China are among the prominent signatories. However, there are some really notable non-signatories right now, including the United States. The U.S. has actually faced quite a bit of domestic pressure from tech conglomerates who are worried about the broad scope of this electronic evidence sharing. The effectiveness of the whole treaty will for sure increase if the U.S. eventually signs, especially given the huge concentration of tech giants based there. Oh, and Canada, Japan, India, and South Korea? They are also not signatories at the time of publishing this explainer. But here's the thing. For any nation to just remain outside this framework, it kind of means turning their jurisdiction into a safe haven for international cybercriminals. And as we know, in cyberspace, nobody is safe until everybody is safe.
That brings us to Section 4, Defining Information Technology Crimes. The principal objective here is to really standardize the fight against digital crime on a global scale. The foundational aims are to harmonize substantive laws so that cybercrimes are recognized equally internationally. We also need to modernize investigative toolkits so national law enforcement can actually preserve and collect electronic evidence efficiently. It also aims to completely eradicate those safe havens we talked about by maximizing cross-border cooperation and to support developing nations by providing a dedicated framework for technical assistance. Structurally speaking, the treaty adopts the modern term Information and Communications Technology, or ICT systems. This covers the whole shebang, everything from your smartphone to massive cloud architectures. It essentially breaks crimes down into two main camps. First, you have cyber-dependent crimes. These are things that literally only exist because of computers, like hacking into a private server or launching a massive DDoS attack. Second, we have cyber-enabled crimes. You can think of these as your traditional crimes, like financial fraud or money laundering, but they're just scaled up incredibly fast using modern technology.
Moving on to Section 5, Global Law Enforcement Cooperation.
Now, the treaty itself spans 9 chapters. Chapter 1 sets all the basic ground rules, making sure to protect national sovereignty and human rights. Chapter 2 really gets into the weeds of criminalization. It mandates that countries must officially outlaw behaviors ranging from illegal hacking and malware distribution right through to online fraud and the horrific spread of online child sexual abuse material. Then, Chapter 3 steps in to sort out the incredibly complex web of jurisdiction. Because, think about it, what do you do when a hacker, a server, and a victim are all located in 3 completely different countries? Chapters 4 and 5 are where we find the real teeth of this treaty. They give local authorities the procedural tools to search, seize, and even wiretap digital footprints, all with proper judicial oversight, of course. But more importantly, they establish the actual international cooperation mechanisms. This includes setting up a literal 24/7 network for emergency data requests. That way, a hacker can't just delete their tracks in 5 minutes, while the police are stuck waiting weeks for some cross-border paperwork to clear. Finally, chapters 6 through 9 focus on the future. They're all about preventing crime through public awareness, helping developing nations upgrade their cybersecurity architectures, and establishing the UN mechanisms needed to monitor and enforce this treaty over the coming decades. It is a seriously exhaustive framework, and it actually requires 40 country ratifications to officially take global effect. Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, Join the Cyber Aware Mission. We'd love for you to join our mission by subscribing to the Cyber Aware Kids YouTube channel. Please, don't keep this vital information to yourself. Share our explainers with parents, teachers, and friends so we can spread this critical public awareness. Go ahead and smash that notification bell and share our explainers to help protect families everywhere. Let's make the internet a safer space together. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder today. With all of these rules, these chapters, and this incredible global momentum, will this single, unprecedented treaty finally be enough to end the era of borderless cybercrime?